I don't like what he did.
No, I said China virus.
Yeah, I understand. He may have been right. And I don't like how he said things about Mexico. I don't like, but he wasn't wrong about some of these critical issues. And that's why they're voting for him. And I think people should be a little more respectful of our fellow citizens. And when you guys have people up here, you should always ask the why. Not like it's a binary thing. You're supporting Trump, you're not supporting Trump. Why are you supporting
It's hard to hate
Trump?
75 million of your fellow Americans. And
I agree.
It's done crazy.
And, the Democrats have done a pretty good job with the deplorables, hugging onto their Bibles and their beer and their guns. I mean, really? Like, could we just stop that stuff and actually grow up and treat other people with respect and listen to them a little bit? And I do think the economy will affect. And I think this negative talk about MAGA is going to hurt Biden's election campaign.
Friend of the show, Glenn Greenwald, weighed in, writing, "For years, Barack Obama and Jamie Dimon were inseparable. The JPMorgan chair vocally supported Obama, and Obama frequently heaped praise on Dimon and acted to help JPMorgan. That's what makes these comments from Dimon about Trump and Trump supporters all the more remarkable." Indeed. I think this is one of those instances where you really see how superficial the sort of liberal pushback toward Trump is. It was all about vibes. It's all about they thought he was impolitic. They didn't like how he sounded. It was awkward for them at parties and their liberal elite backgrounds. But when it comes down to it, when they realize that he maintained, frankly, the economic and political status quo that existed before him, suddenly all of those concerns go out the window. Jamie Dimon and Bernie Sanders ended up in these kind of weird online wars back in 2020 because Bernie Sanders was advancing substantive populist financial policy that would have actually hurt people like Jamie Dimon. He called him out for being fined $13 billion for mortgage fraud and illegally foreclosing on military families, bribing foreign officials, and receiving $416 billion in taxpayer money in the 2008 bailouts. That was the kind of critique Bernie Sanders was making, and you're never going to see someone like Bernie and Jamie Dimon being best friends. But what you will see is someone like Jamie Dimon saying, hey, at the end of the day, Trump isn't that much of a threat to the status quo. I think he's frankly right about the framing, as we talked about in an earlier segment, of not looping every conservative in under some MAGA umbrella to try to stigmatize them. And of course, he's right about Trump being right on trade and some of these other issues. But that has always been the case. And there have been politicians that weren't Donald Trump who were also right on trade, i.e. the kind of Bernie-Trump mirror universes of each other that existed in the 2016 race. And someone like Jamie Dimon was never going to back a kind of America First trade policy coming out of someone like Bernie, because at the end of the day, it came with too much of a threat to his own bottom line. So I would just take all of this with a little bit of a grain of salt.
I thought I should remind our viewers what Donald Trump had to say about Jamie Dimon as recently as November 30th of this past year. Highly overrated globalist Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan, is quietly pushing another non-MAGA person, Nikki Haley, for president. I've never been a big Jamie Dimon fan, but had to live with this guy when he came begging to the White House. I guess I don't have to live with him anymore, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
So there's no affection on Trump's part, which speaks to this power Trump has that everyone is expected to treat him with very nicely, and you can't lash out at him in anger, or you're just like totally written off by all conservatives. But he can say whatever he wants about anyone else. It's real funny.
Well, one other dynamic to this.
And Jamie Dimon is, just to be clear, has endorsed Nikki Haley and is pushing for Nikki Haley. So the Jamie Dimon type peoples are really who you bring into the fold if you make Nikki Haley vice president.
Yes, this is all about establishment preservation. Talking about this under a partisan lens really misses the key story here. One other aspect that is worth noting is that in the last electoral cycle, and then apparently in this electoral cycle as well, there were rumors that Jamie Dimon might be seeking a run for office. This is from a Reuters report.
Hope you found the latest clip from The Hill engaging. We'd love to share our thoughts with you and kickstart a discussion in the comment section. Don't forget to like the video and hit subscribe to stay updated with more content like this. Your support helps us keep the conversation alive. In an era of political polarization, it is refreshing to witness an astute observation from an unexpected source, the banking mogul of JPMorgan Chase, on the Democratic Party's failure to understand the Donald Trump phenomenon. His critique reveals a deep-seated issue within the political and cultural elites, a lack of respect and attentiveness to the concerns of millions of Americans who gravitated towards Trump's message. The criticism of elitism is not a new theme when discussing the Democratic Party's disco act with the working class, but it is rarely acknowledged by those within the high rises of Wall Street. Trump, regardless of the contentious opinions surrounding him, tapped into genuine grievances felt by a significant portion of the electorate. He spoke to the Rust Belt worker, the underemployed coal miner, and disillusioned middle-class Americans who perceived their voices as muted by the establishment's deafening grip. The assertion that the Democrats' critique of Trump's supporters as U20 deplorable U21D was both counterproductive and divisive. A nation cannot heal nor progress when its leaders mock and belittle its citizens. The cling to their Bibles and guns attitude is emblematic of a liberal condescension that fails to appreciate the cultural and economic forces that drive people to certain political loyalties. And in doing so, liberals have alienated a substantial block of voters whom they might otherwise engage in constructive dialogue. Moreover, pragmatism seems to fade when raw emotion dictates political discourse. For many, Trump was less about allegiance to the man and more about the message. He challenged the status quo, openly criticized trade deals that hurt American workers, and advocated for a brand of nationalism that resonated with many who felt globalization left them behind. It is this aspect of Trump's rhetoric that the elites, as rightly pointed by the JPMorgan head, overlooked in their own myopic dismissal of the former president. To accuse millions of Americans of blind fanaticism is to ignore the myriad reasons behind their decisions. The conversation shouldn't hinge on a binary of support or opposition to Trump, but rather on understanding the underlying motivations. The economic hardships, cultural shifts, and policy concerns are legitimate factors demanding to be addressed. Lastly, the JPMorgan executive's comments indirectly remind us that Trump's ascendancy was not an aberration, but a symptom of systemic issues. While elites may find comfort in pie-eyeing this down as a period of uncharacteristic political anomaly, the real work lies in addressing the societal fractures illuminated by Trump's tenure. Dismissing these will only perpetuate the cycle of division and disenfranchisement, paving the way for future turmoil. In sum, the counsel from a figure one would least expect to defend Trump or his supporters is a stark reminder that the first step toward political reconciliation and progress is an attempt to understand, respect, and address the concerns of all Americans, even those we disagree with. This approach could not only heal divides but strengthen democratic principles.